Welcome back to Paul's Tech News. At last, it's over. After struggling through all 2 CPU launches and the unprecedented workload brought on by a grand total of 0 GPU launches in fall 2024, weary tech reviewers can hang up their thermal paste applicators and climb into their caves to hibernate until CES. Unless, of course, some outrageous scandal takes place. Let's check the feed. Aha! The 9800X3D, which you all were foolish enough to believe was the second coming of Tech Jesus after the glowing reviews last week, is in truth a ticking time bomb, destined to self-immolate and burn down your house after locking all your loved ones inside, one might assume, based on the avalanche of videos featuring flaming AMD CPU thumbnails that started popping up Thursday. Turns out only 2 CPUs actually failed. Perhaps conclusions were jumped to. Also, Nvidia has apparently stopped producing RTX 40 series GPUs, and Intel has actually won something, the Best iGPU award. I know, it's weird, but we're doing everything a little bass-ackwards on this week's Tech News.
Excellent!
Today's video is brought to you by Lexar's NM790 NVMe SSDs, providing lightning-fast storage for the latest generation of gaming and workstation PCs. Featuring a high-bandwidth PCIe Gen 4x4 interface, broad compatibility thanks to the M.2 form factor, and capacities up to 4 terabytes with sequential read speeds up to 7,400 megabytes per second, the NM790 makes no compromises and is conveniently available with or without an integrated heatsink. It's also a perfect pairing for Lexar's stable, reliable, and efficient Thor OC DDR5 memory kits too, so click the sponsor link in the description for more.
So I'm definitely in pot calling the kettle black territory if I complain about sensational YouTube video titles and thumbnails. It's a regrettable necessity in this trade, but it still seemed like there was an unusually rapid uptake of this story when it first broke Thursday. Basically, 2 9800X3D owners, one who posted on the PC Master Race subreddit and one from the Quasar Zone forums, said their CPUs burned up and shared pics to prove it happened. And whether it's because of the aforementioned lack of upcoming launches resulting in more free time for tech reviewers and YouTubers, or heightened sensitivity due to the recent unsettling trend of CPU issues cropping up post-launch, quite a few tech media outlets jumped into the fray to graciously inform their loyal viewers of the impending doom, or explosion, or burned contact pads if you're not into the whole hyperbole thing. And while we all love to devour a good scandal, I can't help but think that some may have been overzealous in the doom and gloom framing of their content. There were only 2 incidents reported after all, and if you look closely at the socket images, as Buildzoid did in his video, they both clearly show the same type of damage associated with improper installation. One of these 2 notch nubs is squished down in the same way for both of these users, with additional damage to the housing around the socket's edge. So yes, we should always keep an ear to the ground after a new launch to see how things play out, but in this case, both AMD and MSI, whose X870 Tomahawk motherboard was coincidentally used in both incidents, are dealing with undeserved fallout. For now, I think we can safely call this a non-issue, but fear not, the Redditor has now sent their board and CPU to Gamers Nexus, who apparently now just provides de facto RMA service to everyone on the internet with a PC hardware problem. Somewhat ironically, the other 9800X3D video this week that featured thumbnail flames was the Gamers Nexus and Bearded Hardware overclocking video where they pushed the chip to 6.2 GHz, which notably did not cause the CPU to burn up and fail, likely because it was properly installed in the socket. Other than that inconvenient bit of news, AMD is probably feeling pretty good about themselves this week after trouncing Intel and reports of their market share gains and stuff like that. Sadly, their victory is short-lived, as Intel has taken the lead once again. Who cares about the fastest CPU for gaming, functional high-end graphics cards, or a $3.6 trillion market cap? The prize Intel has really been working towards has finally been realized, and it's the best goddamn integrated graphics on the planet. Suck it, AMD APUs. Intel's memorably named Core Ultra 7 258V with the integrated Arc Graphics 140V GPU powered by Battlemage XE2 architecture was like 3 FPS faster than the equally memorably named Ryzen AI 9 HX370 across 27 games as tested by Tom's Hardware at 720p. At 1080, Intel was 1.6 FPS faster, so pack it up AMD, you're done, the tides have turned and Intel is back on top. In all seriousness though, I would be viewing this as an optimistic first look at Battlemage performance, Battlemage being Intel's 2nd gen GPU architecture after 1st gen Alchemist, if CEO Pat hadn't already squashed the prospects of continued discrete GPU development for the Arc lineup during the earnings call last week. The prospects for a true third player in the gaming video card market aren't looking good, but at least the Ultra 7 285V can play 1080p Cyberpunk at 35.5 FPS. That should get those Intel stock prices moving. Speaking of GPUs that suck, that's all that Nvidia is still making when it comes to the 40 series, the ones that most of us hate, the mobile-only RTX 4050 and the memory bandwidth-starved RTX 4060, according to rumors from the board channel's forums. The Ada AD107 GPU that powers the 4050 and 4060 are all that remains, as apparently the AD102 and AD106 production lines have been shut down, which seems to be a further indication that Nvidia is ramping up for the RTX 50 series launch by trying to have just enough RTX 40 series inventory remaining to make that transition without ever having to offer those pesky discounts that so tarnish a brand's reputation. Imagine discounted GPUs. How tacky. All indications still point to some quantity of RTX 50 series cards being announced during Jensen's CES keynote on Monday, January 6th at 6:30 p.m. The RTX 5080 and RTX 5090 are the most likely and have been rumored the longest, but we might also hear about the made-for-China RTX 5090D, and more recently we've heard that the RTX 5070 and RTX 5070 Ti might launch in February, followed by a March release for the RTX 5060 and RTX 5060 Ti. Still, many questions about these cards, but one thing that does seem confirmed is that Nvidia is obstinately sticking with the 12V2x6 power connector, formerly the 12VH power connector before it was revised to provide somewhat reduced bubbling, melting, and smoking while in use. Side note, those 12VH power failure flame-covered thumbnails from earlier this year were totally justified, by the way. Corsair's newsroom post Thursday talks about their PSUs being equipped with native 12V2x6 connectors so they're ready for next-gen graphics cards, which is super mysterious. I wonder if they're referring to the RTX 50 series. Who knows? And now, additional news specially selected for maximum briefiness, tech briefs. Speaking of next-gen GPU power connectors, the word is that the 50 series will increase power draw at all levels and the most power draw at the top end, which means a 600-watt 12V2x6 connector might not be enough. But, Cooler Master, this PSU might still be overkill. To be fair, the 2000-watt X Mighty Platinum has a beefier model, the 2800-watt variant we saw at CES last year, but this 2000-watt version is probably the first of many power supplies to feature not one, but two 12V2x6 connectors natively, and also to have the wattage profile to handle them. That's a beefy power supply. Nvidia officially went live with the Nvidia app on Tuesday, and it's a pretty straightforward summary. The app is faster and easier to use than the control panel and GeForce experience that it replaces, providing almost all the functionality while not requiring you to log in. There are a few remaining tools from the old Nvidia control panel that still need to be added, so the old control panel will remain available for now, but for anyone running an Nvidia graphics card, the new app is a recommended download. There's a new Steam Deck coming out this week too. Nothing new hardware-wise, but the OLED Steam Deck will temporarily be available as an all-white special edition that goes up for sale starting tomorrow for $679 US. I will say this though, as an owner of the all-white Asus ROG Ally and an original Steam Deck, let me just say, this isn't the best idea. All-white handheld? Not for long. It's the hand-holding of it that leads to constant smudges and the general besmirchment of that pristine finish. Just my opinion. I'm sure these will all still sell out. Lastly, do you feel that? That's the highest rate of elongation in the industry, for a display screen at least, which LG announced this week. Their latest micro-LED prototype sports a 12-inch screen that can stretch up to 18 inches while in use, just like your wife's boyfriend. LG has already put their LED screens on clothes, because we all know the fashion industry could use more pointless flair, but thanks to advances in the silicon substrate and wiring design, these 100 ppi full RGB panels are even floppier, so we can finally live in a world where there are screens on just about every surface. Something perhaps more useful they showed was a car control panel that bulges up when you touch it. Ooh, rebuttonization, just like we talked about last week. They should add some knurling to that though. My clothes are already bulging just thinking about it.
Bruh.
Speaking of things to get excited about, one last plug, a save the date for our awesome hardware charity live stream, which Kyla and I will be streaming together in a completely non-erotic fashion on Saturday, December 14th to raise money for Children's Miracle Network hospitals via Extra Life. I hope all of you guys can join us. But there you have it, tech news for the week. And if you liked it, click that like button or leave me a comment down below. While you're down there, all of the articles I talked about today are linked in the video's description if you're interested. And you can check out my store at paulshardware.net for high quality merchandise. We have some new beanies that just came in, also t-shirts, hoodies, beer sets, as well as my mouse mats, which are super cool. Subscribing to my channel is always a good call too. Thanks again, everyone, and we'll see you next week.